Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial on how to use Adobe Illustrator. This is part 2 of the starter guide. You can find the link to part 1 in the description below. Let's continue where we left off on part 1. So the next tool that you need to know how to use is the type tool. And you can use this anytime that you want to put any type of lettering or any type of words or numbers on your page. So here I want to type the color names. So I'm simply just going to click on the type tool and click my page wherever I want to type, and you'll see this blinking cursor here. And that just means that it's ready to type. So I'm going to type the color names under each t-shirt. And to move the type, I just simply click on it with my black arrow. And then I can select it, hold Alt and Shift to copy that same word over, and then drag over it with my type tool and type the new name that I want. And release. And I can move the words over with my arrows on my keyboard, or I can again use my selection tool and move the word around anywhere I want. And you can go up to your control panel up here and change the font, change the style, or change the font size. And you can play with all these options here. You can change the color as well, but we'll just keep that black. Okay, so earlier we learned about the rectangle tool, so I'll just show you that one more time. And when you click on the rectangle tool and drag it over your page, you'll just drag until you get whatever size rectangle you want. You'll use the fill to make whatever fill color you want. And when you see this red line going through the stroke or the fill, it means that it's empty, or there's no stroke or no fill. So in this case, we have no stroke, meaning there's no outline on this rectangle. So we're just going to click on the black color to make a black outline. And as I also showed you before, you can use your control panel to change the thickness of your outline. Fill color is up here. You can also change your fill color in the control panel by clicking on a different fill color, and change the stroke color by clicking on a different stroke color. Now let's talk about the zoom tool. You just saw me zoom in and out. And the way to do that is to go to your toolbar, click on the zoom tool, hold it over the area that you want to zoom into. So if I want to zoom into my flower motif here, I just hover the zoom tool over it and click with my mouse and it will zoom right in. And if I want to zoom out, I can hold Alt, and you see that that plus, when I hold Alt, becomes a minus, and then I click with my mouse and it zooms out. But the way I was just zooming in on the rectangle was by using the keyboard shortcut, and we'll just deselect that zoom tool. But you can also zoom in by using Control plus on your keyboard and Control minus to zoom out on your keyboard. And every time you keep clicking that plus and holding down Control, you'll zoom in, and if you hold down Control and click on the minus, you'll keep zooming out. And if you have zoomed in and you don't just want to zoom out, but you actually want to see your whole artboard in its original size, then go to the hand tool and double click the hand tool, and it will bring you back to see your whole entire artboard. Next, we have our reflect tool. And this comes in handy a lot in fashion design when we're drawing garments, because we usually draw half of a garment first and reflect it over and copy it to the other side to make the whole garment. So the way that we would do that is to draw half of our garment, which again, I'll be showing you in an upcoming tutorial very soon. And you select that half garment. So you're going to go over here to your rotate tool. And you'll notice that the rotate tool has a little black arrow at the corner of that tool. So whenever you see that little black arrow on any of these tools, it means that there's other tools hidden behind them. So the reflect tool, which is what we're looking for, is hiding underneath the rotate tool. So click on that black arrow and you'll see all of the tools that are within that box. So just go to reflect tool, and now you'll see that it looks like it's reflecting. And you're going to take your mouse and click on the center point where you want the half object to reflect itself. So click, and it will change into this aqua color circle here. And then you take your selection tool, hold Alt Shift on your keyboard, and you'll see that it reflected that half t-shirt over to the other side. Now, if you have a gap like this, while this half is selected, just take your arrows on your keyboard and click on your arrow to bring that half garment over to the other side of the garment. And when it's pretty much meeting in the center, you have your whole object. And the last step that we have to do is take our selection tool and join these center points together, but you have to join each one. So you're trying to join this side and this side. So you want to join these two halves together at each of these center points. So these 2 points have to join together, and these 2 points have to join together. All of the center points have to join together with their corresponding part on the other side. So we'll just join the hem right now by taking the direct selection tool, dragging over both sides, and doing object, path, join, object, path, average. But we'll learn more about that in the drawing tutorial. Now let's look at our eyedropper tool. Let's say that I want to change the front panel of this t-shirt to be the same ivory color as the other t-shirt. What I'll do is take my direct selection tool, or the white arrow, click on the front panel of the t-shirt, and then I'll take my eyedropper tool and I'll click on the ivory color of the other t-shirt to turn that front panel into that same exact ivory color. So the eyedropper tool basically allows you to extract the color from any other object that's on your artboard and get that same exact color onto another object. So those are the main tools that you're going to need from the toolbar for now. Next, let's talk about the window panels that are right over here. So you'll see that I have several window panels. But let's just talk about the really important ones. So you'll see that I have here several different window panels. And the ones that I have open here are not the only ones that you can use. There are a lot of different options of panels that you can use that all have different functions to assist you in creating your artwork. So the window panels are actually found up here in the top menu in Window. And the panels are starting here with Actions, Align, Appearance. Going down this list, these are all window panels that you can open or close. So I suggest that you only have open the window panels that you intend to use in your project, because like I said before, you're going to want to keep your artboard free. You're going to be doing a lot of things, making different colorways, playing with patterns, creating new patterns. So you want to keep all your artboard space free. And it's really good that Illustrator allows you to have these windows float in one another. You can separate them like this but it's just taking up space on your artboard. So I like to keep them all together, and all you have to do is just drag them next to each other and they'll kind of just fall into the same box together. So if you want to close any of them, you can just separate it out and click on the X and it will make it disappear. And if you want to open that same one again, you just find it in Window and go down the list. It's in alphabetical order. So I had closed my Pathfinder. So if I want to open it again, I just find Pathfinder and click on it and it opens again, and I can drag it back into my box with the others. But I would say that's not one of the most important window panels to have open at the very beginning. So let's talk about the really important ones. I would say that your layers panel is very, very important. Some people don't like to use a lot of layers in their Illustrator work. They feel it's more of a Photoshop thing, but I really find layers handy. Let's say even if you didn't have artwork within these 3 layers, when you have just one layer, you'll see that when you click on this arrow, there's actually a bunch of different groups and paths and objects within that layer. So you really are still working in layers. So these sub-layers serve to keep your artwork organized. Everything that you put on your artboard is going to be within these layers or sub-layers. And the layers allow you to arrange different parts of your objects or different objects however you want. So I'm gonna make a blank layer with these 2 t-shirts. And we're only looking at this layer right here. If you don't want to see everything that's going on in your other layers, just close the eye of that layer. So right now we're just working on layer 3. And the only thing that I have in layer 3 is the 2 t-shirts, the ivory and the taupe. So right here, you can see in this little box that this group here is my ivory t-shirt and this group here is my taupe t-shirt. So the taupe t-shirt is on top of the ivory t-shirt. That means that when I overlap these, the taupe t-shirt will be on top of the ivory. So on your artboard, it appears in the same order that it is in your layers palette. So if I want the ivory t-shirt to overlap on top of the taupe t-shirt, I can drag my ivory layer up and it will be on top of the taupe t-shirt. So you do have to pay attention to the order of things in your layers. And here we can see that our flower motif is on top of the t-shirt, which is exactly what you want. Sometimes when you're moving things around, grouping things, ungrouping things, some of your motifs disappear, and sometimes what happens is that for whatever reason, an object can get hidden behind another. If for some reason you made some change to things on your artboard and suddenly your flower disappears and you don't know where it is, and you find that it's behind your t-shirt accidentally, you can see that your flower layer is here and your t-shirt is here. You just have to take the flower layer and drag it up above the t-shirt and you'll have rearranged the order. You can also look at the different parts of your group, and let's say that for whatever reason you're playing with your objects and somehow your sleeve is now on top of your front panel. So you can click on that part and you see my sleeve is here, and I can get that back behind the front body by dragging it under the front body. Then I can select this sleeve and drag it and put it behind the front body where it belongs. So basically you're seeing the order of things. You can see all of the different parts that make up your t-shirt, and you can open and close the eye of any of them to make it appear or disappear. You can also lock different parts of your object. So let's say that I want to change the color of this t-shirt, but I don't want to interfere with the flower motif. So I'll click on my flower motif and lock the flower motif. And then I'll drag over my object and change the color, and it doesn't affect the flower motif. Now, if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't locked the flowers, and I dragged over my t-shirt and tried to change it to pink, everything, including my flower motif, would change to pink. And I don't want that. So that's why you're going to want to lock certain parts of your garment. So another really important panel that you'll want to have open is the swatches palette. This is where your color options will be. And if you create any new patterns or swatches, you'll be able to drag them in and have these new patterns so that you can use it throughout your presentation. You can also create new colors and also drag them in. Up here, I have my default colors that open up when I open Illustrator, but there are actually different options here. You can open up different swatch libraries that are available in Illustrator, and then you can drag and drop any new colors that you created or new patterns that you created. The next panel that we're going to talk about is the stroke panel. We spoke about stroke before. So basically your strokes are your outlines. Just selecting the sleeves and the front panel of this garment, I'll show you how to use the stroke panel. Up here you have weight. Right now we have a 1.354 weight. You can just make it a 1. Or if you want to have a thicker stroke, you can make your outlines a 2. I wouldn't go any higher than that on this sketch, but I'd rather keep it at a 1. There are a lot of different options here, and one very important option is the dashed line option. This is really important for fashion designers because this is where we get those dashed lines to make our stitches. We simply draw the line that we want, and then we click on dashed, and here we get to change the dash and the gap size. And that's how I did the stitching on the neckline and on the cuffs here. And as you can see, there are many other options here, but those are the most important ones. And next we have the characters panel. So this is just another area that you can use to play with your type and any text that you type into your artboard. But there are other options here as well that go a little bit more in depth. So you're going to select your text that you've already typed in with the black arrow, and then you can use these options here. So just like with the control panel up here, you can also change your character font with the character panel instead of the control panel. You can change the sizing, but you can also change other things like the width of each character. So each character, each letter in your word can be wider, or it can be narrower, or the height can be taller or shorter. You can underline, you can do a strike through. There are a lot of different options to play with here, and it's just another handy way to change your text. And then last but not least, we have the appearance panel. Now, when an object is very simple, you're not going to find a whole lot going on here, but sometimes we make sketches that are a lot more complicated. We might have patterns on top of patterns, or a color and then a pattern overlaid on top of it in a more sheer opacity. And sometimes you want to go back in and understand what it is that you did in that sketch, and you also want to alter it and change it. So the appearance panel will come in handy a lot when you're doing something like that. So one simple thing I'll show you here is if we click on the inside neck of this t-shirt here, sometimes I like to make a kind of a shadow here, right? To show that it's the inside of the garment and not the outside. So one way that I can do that is I can apply a darker overlay on top of the ivory color that's here already. So this inside neck is filled with the same color as the rest of the body, which is our ivory color. And you can see here that this piece that I selected right here has a black stroke. It tells you the stroke thickness, and it has that same ivory fill as the rest of the garment. So I want to make this look a little bit darker, but I want to do it by adding an overlay. by adding another color that's a little more dark but sheer on top of it. So I can actually add a fill on top of this fill, and I can do that by clicking on the fill, clicking on this black arrow here, and clicking on add new fill, and that gives me a second fill. So what I would normally do is click on black, and of course I don't want it to look completely black. So I click on black, and then I click on this down arrow, and it gives me an option to change the opacity. So I'm going to change my opacity to a 10%. And now I have this black color, but only in 10% opacity. So it's just overlaid on top of my original ivory color. Just a simple way to create a shadow in the back of the neck. So you can do a whole lot of things with the appearance panel. Like I said, it comes really in handy when you're playing with patterns and making shadows and things like that. Okay, so now that you're familiarized with your workspace, your main tools, and your main panels, you're ready to start drawing on Illustrator. Like I mentioned before, the main tool that you're going to use to draw on Illustrator is the pen tool. So make sure to check out my upcoming video on how to use the pen tool and how to draw on Illustrator. You won't want to miss it. If you like this video, please hit the like button, please subscribe, and please feel free to leave me any comments in the comments section. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. Thanks a lot, guys. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial. See you next time.